found out there's fishing games for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This one looks neat. I wonder who made this. Oh dear God, this is going to suck, isn't it? Hot B. These guys are well known on my channel for making the absolute worst fishing games of all time on the PlayStation 1 with Big Bass World Championship and Black Bass with Blue Marlin. Check out those reviews later. For now, let's see if they could have made a better game that was 2D instead of 3D. After all, not everyone was capable of a smooth transition between pixels and polygons back in the 1990s, as well as the early 2000s.
Son of a bitch!
Given this is the NES, you can't expect much in the way of controls. You only have the D-pad, select, start, B and A button for inputs. But also, given this is Hot B, I was expecting it to control poorly. I'm still suffering PTSD from the PS1 games. Yes, you heard me right. To choose cast, you hit a loading screen. To open the tackle box for lures, you hit a loading screen. To select in between the lures, you hit a loading screen. To select the lure, you hit a loading screen.
Whoa, dude, why are you bringing this from a 0 to a 10? Put that thing away.
But thankfully, this game actually controls well. Well, good enough for an NES 8-bit game anyways. You use the B button to confirm and A to cancel, which may take some getting used to for the younger generation. Controls were backwards in our day. It was the Wild West. We didn't have established controls for games, let alone entire genres, until about the PS2 era. So yeah, you cast with the B button and build your gauge. After that, you can reel in your lure by tapping the B button, using the D-pad to move your lure around and just hope for the best. Because at first, the fish don't seem to bite no matter how long you play. A common issue I have with many fishing games is they make it more difficult into simulation over a more simple arcade approach. Part of why I hated Bass Landing, but enjoyed Big Ol' Bass 2, Action Bass, and Sega Bass Fishing instead. I enjoy the more arcade approach. This game leads more into simulation, however. This in turn means you need to pick your fishing spot carefully, as different types of fish are in certain locations, like bass prefer the weeds and murky shallows, while you're more likely to catch trout in the more open deep waters.
Nice.
You only have one body of water to fish in. This is Lake Amata. At first, you can only participate in free fishing mode. You need to catch fish and prep yourself for the tournament. More on that later. For now, let's cover lures and their importance. When you start playing, there's only a small selection of lures. Each one plays differently, like a water skipper which never sinks. Instead, you use it to skip on the water surface, creating vibrations to lure fish to it. Certain fish will prefer this kind of lure. I found those shallow runner lures work best at catching most kinds of fish.
And let's not forget, I do keep that big iron on me. And these pythons, they don't play nice.
As for catching a fish, this requires a lot of patience. Even more so than most fishing games I've played so far, and even more so than in real life. I usually catch catfish and carp galore with just corn and stuff, but here, oh man, it's like a trip to the DMV. You need to get a good cast, make sure your cast as far as possible, then just slowly reel in your line. Eventually something will appear. The fish are like Animal Crossing silhouettes. Just keep reeling it in for the best, hoping for the best. Once hooked, you begin a painful session of who can put up a better fight. You will hear a beeping sound eventually. This is your line tension. Stop reeling once the sound plays. Relax your line. Take your time. Wear out the fish. It takes two to tango. Just keep the line from getting too far away from you, and eventually, that fish is yours. You can view your current records to see all your catches. This will tell you the fish, its weight, the lure used, and more. I won't bother covering the other mode because it's literally the same thing, just with a goal. No thanks. When you quit fishing, you get a password. You need to write that down to be able to use it later. Yeah, for those who are under the age of 27, there was a time when video games had passwords. There was no autosave or manual saving feature. Yeah, this was because we didn't have hard drives, SSDs, or even memory cards yet. Back then, you wrote down a password that was as long, with confusing fonts making it hard to tell a capital O to a 0, a lowercase j to a capital J, and more. But thankfully, we're long past those dark ages of gaming. Nowadays, we have autosaves, checkpoints, and in-game saving capabilities.
We can't bust heads like we used to, but we have our ways.
So yeah, you need this password to keep your progress and enter the tournament, which I won't bother covering like I said. Honestly, this game doesn't have anything else to it, which I guess makes sense since this is the NES. So let's move on to the overall and be done with this review. At the end of the day, the Black Bass for NES is an okay game. It's nothing special, and it's clear Hot B was never a good developer. Having played their 3D sequels on the PlayStation 1 first, I was hoping their 2D older titles would be less trash. Sadly, that's not really the case. Yet, unlike Black Bass Championship and Blue Marlin with Black Bass or whatever for PS1, the Black Bass for NES is a mediocre game worth checking out if you ever wanted some 8-bit fishing action. Eventually, we'll look into the other NES fishing games, as I want to eventually cover every console's fishing game. Why? Because I have demons in my head telling me to do so. That's why. Anyways, that's it for this video. See you all later.
Nice.